What's going on, everybody? It's Mr. Morfetto, and today I want to dissect another classmate of Class 1A in the franchise, in the manga, in the anime that is My Hero Academia. And today, let's dissect Kirishima. With his quirk Harden, he can harden his skin to be nearly impenetrable, just depending on how much force you put into it, or how hard Kirishima can get. This kid has been very well developed in Class 1A if you compare him to most of the class. I like to think that him and Ida have almost an equal amount of character development. Ida is more Izuku Midoriya's right-hand man, and Kirishima is more Bakugo's right-hand man, and that's how I kind of put these people in the show. I really care about Ida and Kirishima equally, fandom-wise. I think they're both dope, and I think both their quirks are dope. We got our speedster boy, and we got our impenetrable, invincible man. Kirishima really stood out from the rest of the class. Him and Danky and Kirishima, if you look at them, if you look at the characters from My Hero Academia, I feel like Kirishima looks like a main character. I think Danky looks more like a main character, but Kirishima could easily be a main character. He stands out with that red hair, those sharp-looking teeth, kind of puts off the vibe of the main character from Fire Force, which I just started watching. But Kirishima, he's pretty cool. We actually get a little bit of a backstory for him, which is cool. We don't get a lot of that. I'm surprised at this point in MHA that we haven't got a little mini backstory for every member of Class 1A, regardless of importance. Like an episode just for... I feel like they should give an episode to characters that haven't gotten as much development, like Ida and Kirishima and Ochako, or even Mineta. Even Mineta's had a lot of screen time. Not a lot of development, but a lot of screen time. We know who Mineta is. I feel like he's had less than Ida and Kirishima. He's less important than them to the story, if you ask me, but he's more important to the story than a few other students, like Eijiro and Annie Voice, for example, or Invisible Girl. But Kirishima, in my opinion, stood out from the very beginning. From Season 1, I think he really made his first impact for me during the USJ attack by the villains, when they attacked and were trying to... I can't remember what they were trying to do. Oh, they were trying to beat up All Might, but All Might wasn't there or something, but eventually All Might shows up and kicks their ass. I think they were trying to get All Might, but he wasn't there. And then they just settled for beating the shit out of some students. Either way, Kirishima was one of the first students to be like, oh, right, no, we're going to fight. Even though most of the kids in the class were like, what do we do? We're first-year students. We're not supposed to fight nobody. We ain't got no preliminary licenses or nothing. We haven't even had a damn work study yet. What are we supposed to do? We need to run away and get help. Kirishima and Bakugo were two of the first people to be like, nah, let's fight. This is our first opportunity to kick some butte for reals. And they were lucky that the League of Villains decided to attack with weak, no-name villains that were pretty much fodder weaklings, easily defeated by these children. I don't know. It felt like these kids, these first-year students, wiped the floor with this army of villains that they put together, the League of Villains put together. It almost feels like All For One decided to just let the League of Villains do their own thing and not help them out at all with planning. Like, just do your thing, and I want you to fail. I'm pretty sure that was the plan. I think he's talked about it before, where he's like, the plan is to let you fail many, many times and then get back up again. Either way, Kirishima kicked some ass, took some names. A lot of it was off screen, but him and Bakugo, I believe, teamed up. They were separated together. That was like their first beginning of their bromance, I believe. And they were down to fight anybody, really. And that was really the first time I was like, ooh, this Kirishima kid's dope. He's tough. He's a man's man, as he likes to say. And then in season 2, Kirishima took off in the sports festival, where he did pretty well during the race, you know, kicking ass, beating the shit out of some machinery, some robots. And then during the cavalry battle, I believe he teamed up with Bakugo again, igniting their bromance once again, saying that he would be there to back up Bakugo. And he makes it to the final 16, which is a big deal, if you ask me, because there was a lot of kids in this sports festival tournament thing. And he makes it to the final 16. He makes it to the final 8. If I'm correct. He beats Tetsu in round 1, barely. It was close. His hardening, you know, for me, it felt like the metal would be stronger than his hardening. But I think it's because of the metal's weakness that he needs to eat lots of iron. He's got a limited amount of metal time. He's got a time limit, I guess, which is not as, I don't know. He wins. Kirishima beats Tetsu, and they begin a sort of a bromance as well after that. And we actually get a little bit of a development for Tetsu, more than we'd get for some of the characters in Class 1A from that fight alone, which is pretty wild. He goes all out against Tetsu, and I think this was all during... there was like a lot of stuff going on during their fight, so we didn't get to see the whole fight. I think that we just saw them punching each other a bunch until they both fell down. It was almost a draw, and then they had to do like an arm wrestling competition at the end to see who goes on ahead. And then I think Kirishima goes on to the next round, and he just gets his ass beat by Bakugo in round 2. Which is understandable, because Bakugo's tough as nails, and he's one of our top tier diggity dogs. And to be fair, Bakugo wins this tournament. And I've said this before, if I'm going to lose a tournament, I want to lose to the winner so I don't feel like shit. He lost to the winner. What would have happened, though, if Kirishima went head to head with, I don't know, Izuku Midoriya or Ida? Could he handle himself there? Could he, in round 2, could he have beaten Ida? Could he have found a... I mean, Izuku Midoriya had, at the time, was very limited. He could only use his power one time. Really, he could overdo it and keep flicking his fingers and wasting his bones away by just smashing shit to pieces. That'd be the only way he could beat Kirishima. I think in the end he probably wouldn't have been able to continue on, because Kirishima would have whooped some ass unless Izuku pulled out some major bone-cracking smashes on Kirishima. Kirishima's superhero name is Red Riot, which I believe to be one of the best superhero names in all of Class 1A, if not the best. I mean, him and Danky's Charge Bolt is pretty dope. Really, Red Riot is something you can remember, something that sticks in your head. And I think he's got a lot. When he graduates from UA, I think he's got a lot of potential there to become something real cool and special social media wise and branding wise. People will be buying Red Riot shirts. He's got something going on there. Kids will be dyeing their hair red like him. That's another thing. Who would have thought that his hair was dyed red? His hair is actually like black or some shit. You know how hard it is to dye your hair that color red if your hair is that black? Either way, we move on. He loses the sports festival, but he makes it very far. He makes a little bit of a name for himself. And when they do the damn internships with the different superhero things. He did an internship, and he with this dude with 4 arms, I believe. Him and Tetsu were selected to do so, and they didn't really show a whole lot of what they did. I just know that he was selected. He was one of the few students that was actually selected to do a internship. And that's pretty cool. And that's something that puts him apart from other kids in the class that didn't get to do one, at least that we saw. I don't believe that every student got to do an internship that we saw. Maybe they did, and they just did not develop it at all. So he got to do a little bit of an internship with this dude with 4 arms that had nothing to do with the story really at all. But he got to hang out with Tetsu, which is cool. I almost wish that there's one thing in the that they mentioned, that in the sports festival, that they would kick people out of the class if they didn't do well in the sports festival. And I think that was just a lie from Aizawa to get them to work harder. But I almost feel like they should have kicked a couple of the stragglers out of Class 1A and brought up people like Shinzo, or, I don't know, move some kids from Class 1B to Class 1A. I'm not sure if they're ranked lower or some shit. But there were some badasses in Class 1B, including Tetsu, and it would have been dope to move them on over. Either way, after that, there was the Season 2 finale, where Kirishima had to team up with Sugar Rush, with Sato, and they had to take on Cementos, and they had to beat him. I think they had to put some handcuffs on him to beat him, or just beat him, to pass the finals of that period in their first year. I know it wasn't the end of their first year, obviously. It was like some kind of end of year period, right before the summer vacation thing. Either way, him and Sugar Rush decided to just forget all of their training and just head straight on through some cement walls and smash shit as hard as they can. They were the worst combination. 2 brawlers instead of one. They needed someone to lead them. They're not. I would say that Kirishima isn't a good leader. He's a good warrior. He's a good shield. He will protect you to his dying breath. But he is not necessarily a good strategist. And neither is Sugar Rush, Sato, and they get overwhelmed by Cementos, who isn't necessarily, I'm not saying he's weak or anything, but he's kind of on their level, being like impenetrable and whatnot. He's pretty tough, actually, if you think about it. He can manipulate cement, and I think he can produce it. He's pretty wild looking. He's a beefy boy, and he beat them wholeheartedly, and leading to the Kirishima and Sato having to do extra classes during the summer camp, which comes next in season 3, where they have to do more classes, basically. And then Kirishima wants to work on getting harder. Really, pretty much, he doesn't get to do a whole lot during this time, because then eventually the villains show up. The Action Squad, the League of Villains show up, an army of them, and they attack the summer camp, and Kirishima's trapped in class and isn't allowed to help. So he doesn't really get to do anything during this time. And Bakugo gets captured, Kirishima's best bro, so he's real pissed. And Kirishima leads the charge, really. Kirishima, with a combination of Momo's tracking device, she goes, hey, I got a tracking device in there. Kirishima's like, I'm going to go save my bro. I didn't get to help him at all because they kept me in some classroom the whole time while my buddy, Bakugo, was getting taken away. What the hell? And he really wanted to go fight. So it recruits Izuku Midoriya, and Momo decides to go along. The whole crew go along. They have a great moment where they get to play dress up. Ida shows up. The whole crew's going on this trip to save Bakugo, which in my mind was like, just let the pros handle it, guys. You got to understand, you guys have been through enough. But he's going. I'm surprised. I think Tetsu was hurt, but I think because he fought in mustard. I'm surprised that he didn't go get Tetsu to help them. I think he would have been like, yeah, bro, let's team up and let's go save Bakugo. I think that could have happened. And I'm also surprised that they couldn't convince Kamari or Danki to go with them. Charge Bolt. He's a bro. He's like Kirishima's second best friend. Either way, him, Izuku Midoriya, Momo, and Todoroki all go and try and save Bakugo, and they succeed, by the way. Izuku realizes they need to shoot into battle because I think All Might was in the middle of fighting All for One, and Bakugo was in the middle of keeping himself alive, fighting the League of Villains all at once. And he was doing pretty good, actually. And Izuku's like, I know if I go and try and help Bakugo, he's going to tell me to piss off. But I know that you and Kirishima and Bakugo are bros. And if you put your hand out for him, he will take it. And they shoot off into the air with the help of Ida's super speed. They catch Bakugo mid-air when they like, come grab my hand, and there was a cool moment. They save him, and he's like, you idiots. But they save Bakugo, giving All Might the ability to go all out. And I thought that was pretty dope. I was pretty excited about that moment for Kirishima because it was true. I don't think that Bakugo would have reached out for anybody else's hand in class because he'd feel like they'd look down on him when he's trying to be the top diggity dog in class. And that's the truth. The whole truth and nothing but the truth. Either way, Kirishima saves Bakugo with the help of his buddies. It was really his plan, so it wasn't necessarily Midoriya's. It was Midoriya's plan at the end, but it was his plan to go and help, and regardless of what the pros say. They could have got expelled for this, and I guess they could have blamed it on Kirishima in the end, but they didn't. They did not. They did not blame him at all. Either way, we get to the point where they need to go get their provisional licenses. I know there is a point where they all check out their bedrooms together. I'm trying to remember what Kirishima's bedroom looked like. Oh yeah, it was a bunch of like workout equipment, which makes total sense. He's a bro. He wants to work out. I can understand that. He's got like a punching bag, I believe, and probably a weight set, ready to go, ready to get hard. Kirishima, Bakugo, and Danki get to team up during the provisional licensing exam where they get to become semi-pros. And that was a big moment for Danki, taking out the blobby fella. Not a big deal, but they all get to team up. They get to kick ass. They get to take names. Kirishima got to be a part of that, but it was cool to see those three paired up. And in the video game, they get a combo tag team move together, which makes a whole lot of sense. But it was cool to see them team up against the dude from the other high school that can turn people into meatballs. And that was cool. Kirishima got to be part of that. Kirishima passes the provisional license exam. Nothing of note in part 2. He just helps a couple people of the fake citizens. Cool. No big deal. Either way, he passes. Bakugo doesn't. His bro doesn't pass along with him because he's being a dum-dum. Either way, Kirishima moves on to the... What happens to Kirishima after that? He gets to team up with Fat Gum for a while. I know he gets his ass whooped by Mirio along with the rest of his class. But he gets to do another internship thingy with Fat Gum this time, somebody that really fits his personality. Honestly, with the English dub, the dude that does Fat Gum's voice and the dude that does Kirishima's voice sound so similar that it threw me off. I was like, is this the same guy? It sounds like he's talking to himself. Either way, he gets the biggest moment of his career in the anime when he gets to go on an internship thingy patrol with Sun Eater and Fat Gum. Thanks to Sun, if it wasn't for Sun Eater, he would never have gotten this spot with the Fat Gum internship thing. Agency, Fat Gum Agency. Either way, if it wasn't for my boy Sun Eater, Kirishima wouldn't have got in. I think he would have found a place to land, but he found a good place because Fat Gum's a pretty big deal in the series if you read Vigilantes and you read MHA. Either way, he goes and he has to fight a dude that amplifies his quirk using the trigger drug, and he's got all these knives. He can like create knives out of his body. And Kirishima getting his ass whooped. Sun Eater loses his quirk temporarily. Fat Gum's busy. And Kirishima needs to save some citizens, or at least keep them from being stabbed by all these knives that this dude's producing. And his quirk isn't strong enough, and he's like, what do I do? And I believe we get a little bit of a Kirishima backstory at some point during this season 4. And we learn that he was kind of a dweeb in high school or middle school, and his quirk kind of sucked, and he really just developed it over the last year before he got into UA. Before that, he could barely get hard. And now, when he got into UA, after training, working out, changing his diet, I assume, he was able to get super hard. And it makes sense. Maybe, when you're young, you don't realize you need to exercise, you need to the muscle that is his quirk, he needed to work it out to make it stronger. And I'm wondering if he just didn't realize that. He didn't realize he needed the courage to do so. He needed to put the work in. And now that's all he does, I'm assuming, is work out and make his quirk harder. So he gets super ultra hard, impenetrable, invincible mode, beats the shit out of this drug addict quirk using knife dude, goes super hard, has a transformation. One of the first transformations in My Hero Academia, to be honest. I think when he goes into invincible mode, it's really one of the first big transformations. Him and All Might. I'm trying to imagine, him and All Might are two of the main characters that have transformed. The dude transformed into a armored up monster man, wins the day with little help from Fat Gum, and makes the next step to being a super duper hero. And I think that was super cool because it advances his quirk. He's been so developed so well, and at that point in the story in season 4, I would say he's more developed than Ida. I would say they kind of equaled out when Ida went super duper speed in the beginning of season 5 against Mudman, but until then, right then and there, Kirishima became a big part of season 4. Season 4 was Kirishima's make it or break it time for his character, and he made it, if you ask me. Then later in season 4, he got to be a big part of saving Eri from Overhaul, and he went head to head against this dude with the mask on. I cannot remember his name for the life of me right now. But he's a dude that he's got a good punch, basically, and he wanted to fight to the death with Kirishima. This dude he went head to head. Him and Fat Gum and Sun Eater all got to be a part of saving Eri. Sun Eater decided to fight 3 jobbers that were pretty tough, actually, at the same time. And then Kirishima and Fat Gum got separated, and they had to fight this dude that can create shields, and this dude that can punch real hard, is what I got from it. They went head to head. Kirishima didn't win. It was like a draw more than anything. But he got his ass beat at first. Broke his armor and his arms all broke apart. It looked pretty damn brutal. Like his skin was falling off because it was so hard, but it broke and shattered. His armor shattered even after he got that power up. It was kind of weird. It almost felt like they should have gave him his power up here instead of earlier. Either way, we get a little, I think at this point is when we get the backstory, when he gets knocked down and Fat Gum is protecting him. Fat Gum is using everything he has to protect Kiroshima, all of his fat cells. Kirishima gets up after we learn about his backstory, after we learn about him and Mina being like a guaranteed relationship. Anybody who says that Kirishima and Mina aren't meant to be together, they are the most developed couple, I guess you'd say, other than Izuku and Uraraka, I guess you'd say. They've really developed Mina and Kirishima as people who care about each other, and they've known each other since high school. Mina was so outgoing and Kirishima was so shy and weak, and she was willing to stand up to somebody like Gigantamax, the giant dude. Either way, Gigantimakia, that's his name. Kirishima decided to become something great because he was a big fan of Red something. The dude, I don't know. There was a cool backstory. He learned, he dyed his hair red, he's ready to rock. Either way, he gets back up after getting his quirk broken, and he saves Fat Gum, giving him enough time to charge up a Fat Gum punch, and they win the day. It wasn't really technically a win, but it was a draw, and they survived, and they earned this dude's respect, and that was kind of cool. And let's see, really, that was really the last big thing Kirishima has done in the series, in the anime so far. At the end of season 4, nothing really. I mean, after they saved Eri, he was a part of the band, I believe. No, did he get to play guitar or anything? I can't remember. Well, no, I guess Kirishima didn't, after that, he kind of dwindled out. He had his moment. That was his moment. They kicked ass. They took names. Him and Fat Gum are a thing as a duo, trio with Sun Eater. Super cool. Love it all. Season 5 kicks in. He gets to be a part of Danki's team, along with Shinzo and a couple other guys. He actually gets his ass kicked early on during the Class 1A versus Class 1B thing, and it really didn't develop him at all. Like, he didn't get to show off anything, which is fine. I feel like him not doing well during versus Class 1B is fine, because he had all this development in Season 4. It's okay. Let Tsuyu and Shinzo and Danki team up and save the day during that little trial. And then after that, in Season 5, he doesn't get to do shit, because it's a lot about the villains, and it's a lot about Izuku, Shoto, and Bakugo. So, really, Kirishima's development is kind of paused right now in the anime, but he does have a big moment in the manga during the war. Spoiler alert, he gets to be a big part, along with help from Mina. Basically, him and Mina take down, and Momo, as a group, along with the rest of the class, but Mina and Kirishima are the ones that throw the sleeping agent into Gigantamakia's mouth, knocking him out later, or at least weakening him later, so that the rest of the heroes can kick his ass. So that's cool. And I think he saves Mina from dying. I could be completely wrong. She almost made the ultimate sacrifice, and I believe he shows up and saves the effing day. I almost feel like he stole Mina's thunder. I think they should have just let her get that win, because he's already had a huge win already, and I don't think Mina really has had a big win. She's had a few cool things that she's done, but I think that if Mina was the one to beat Gigantamakia, well, not beat him, but give him the sleeping agent into his mouth, the tranquilizer thing that they threw in his mouth, I think that would have been dope. Kirishima otherwise has not done anything of note in a while, which is fine. I feel like Kirishima's had plenty of development, if you ask me, and he's one of the most developed kids in the class. And I think it's time for him to step. He's had him and Ida and Uraraka. They're all where they need to be, if you ask me. They can probably get stronger. They can, develop their quirks a little bit more here and there. He can get harder. Really, that's all he can do is just get harder. Just like in The Flash, when they're like, what are you going to do? I'm going to run faster. All Kirishima can do, all Red Riot can do is get harder, baby. And I think he's just going to keep getting harder. I think that in the end, he's probably going to end up with Mina, and they're going to have children who can create acid and be hard as shit. Or, this is my big theory, Kirishima is a man who self-sacrifices for other people. He's willing to put his life on the line every single time to help a friend, to help citizens, to help Bakugo, for one. I think, in the end, that Kirishima has the most potential to be the one to make the ultimate sacrifice. During the final parts of My Hero Academia, when they decide to end it all, he would be the perfect kid to sacrifice himself. Maybe for Bakugo, maybe for Midoriya, maybe for somebody else, maybe for Mina Ashido. Make a lot of sense. He dies, and it pushes somebody like Bakugo to the absolute limits, willing to sacrifice himself. Kirishima is the dude that's willing to self-sacrifice. Do I believe that Kirishima could be a top 10 hero once he graduates and whatnot? Hell yeah! Like I already said, he's already got a great name, Red Riot. He's ready to rock and roll after they graduate. He's got Fat Gum backing him up. He's got Sun Eater. I'm sure he'll start his own agency. Maybe him and Mina will. Maybe him and Bakugo and Danki will start an agency. That'd be cool, like a 3-bro agency. What are we talking about here? Who knows? I could see that happening. But I personally, fingers crossed, to be honest, think that Kirishima should be the one to die. All 20 kids in Class 1A can't survive the war that's coming. One of them has to go. I feel like one of them should be a traitor. That'd be sick too. I don't think it's going to happen, but I could see one of them making the ultimate sacrifice, and Kirishima would be perfect. Whether it's for Bakugo, it's for Midoriya, or it's for Mina Ashido, I think that Kirishima would be the dude to put his life on the line. And when he dies, it'll push everybody in the class even harder. Just like him. As hard as he can get. That's my theory. I would be surprised if they actually kill anybody, but I think they need to show how dangerous the enemies are. There's so much death that needs to happen on the good guy side to even things out. Especially in these students. I feel like there needs to be a major death. Whether it's in Class 1B or 1A, one of them needs to go. And Kirishima would be the perfect sacrifice to make the show even more epic. I'm Mr. Morfetto. What do you guys think of Kiroshima? I'll talk to you later.